Hello! It's me, Wildcat JF. Not feeling like being in front of the camera today. Here for episode 71 of Levels Plus Whenever. I want to talk about the Direct in a post sense. Just a quick review of how well I actually predicted things, which I did alright. As well as just kind of talking about what I thought went really well for it, and the things that didn't really ignite my fire in any way. So we'll do the discussion on what I predicted, and in terms of Nintendo, I did extremely well. Zelda showed up. There was no direct announcement. They actually showed a bit more footage than I planned on them doing, which is good. And now I'm at the point where I don't want to see any more of the game. Advance Wars got a release date again. All the DLC, I actually called all 4 DLCs that would be in this Direct. I'm a little surprised that Fire Emblem Engage went so far to just tell us what the rest of the DLC is. But it's nice to know what I'm looking forward to. But we'll get into more the others when they pop up later. Kirby, of course, Bayonetta Origins. I briefly thought, because I started recording the predictions video without my mic on and didn't realize it. So I thought that I had wholly skipped over a Metroid Prime discussion, but no, it's there. So I called that too. Pikmin 4, no Pokemon, and Game Boy and Game Boy Advance showing up on NSO. What I did not get was nothing on the Mario movie. I was a little surprised. A new Mario game was not discussed in any fashion. And there wasn't really a retro revival beyond what I already predicted. Metroid Prime, the Kirby Wii game continuing to get coverage, and the Game Boy Advance stuff. But nothing new, nothing that we didn't already know about. In terms of the third-party stuff, though, I did not do that well. The only things I got right was Bandai Namco Retro Surprise, which they did twice, and no Resident Evil. They did not show anything on Suikoden and Ace Attorney Trilogy 2. Monster Hunter Rise, Koei Tecmo wasn't even there. No KOF, no Natsume, no Midnight Suns, no Chrono Trigger, no Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, no new Square Enix IP, no Dead Space, no Silk Song. There was a very brief thing in Mega Man Battle Network Collection in the sizzle reel at the end. But on the whole, for Nintendo at least, I feel like I nailed it. So let's move into my thoughts on all of the announcements in the Direct. There's nothing that I don't want to promote, so I'm just going to talk about each thing as it goes back up. I've watched it with audio now multiple times. I've watched many reactions, so I feel like I've got a pretty good sense of what people are excited about and what I'm excited about. So, without further ado, Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 was probably how this should have been announced in the first place in some ways. It was great to see Shigeru Miyamoto talk about it a little bit the last Direct, but I think people would have been much more hype if all of a sudden Pikmin 4 was here. Without any real precedence. But the gameplay's changed quite a bit. The camera's much lower to the ground, which is the big thing. And it looks like all of the experimentation that Pikmin 3 Deluxe incorporated is included here. So it's hard to say if Pikmin 3 Deluxe was worked on in tandem, and they were like, wow, this works great, and we're getting a good response, let's move forward with this. Which would be my guess, since Pikmin 3 Deluxe came out, I think, 2 years ago at this point. And supposedly this game's been in the works for like 7-8 years. They've just been taking their time. ice Pikmin look great. The little dog friend that shows up a little bit later in this video feels great. Looks great. But both of those are really doing some interesting stuff to how you get around in the game. Plus you can climb walls. It looks like the dungeon system from Pikmin 2's back. So it seems that this is more of like Pikmin 2, but with multiple characters, possibly. There's these other crew members that we don't really know anything about, and it seems like one of the objectives is to find crewmates. So I'm wondering if there will be multiplayer in this or not. But yeah, I think that while this isn't really doing much for me personally, I don't have a big, whelming desire to play more Pikmin, but I think this is exactly what fans of the franchise were hoping it would be. So that's great. I'm very happy for them. So Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I've just not been very motivated to get this pass. And the new characters that have been in part of 1, 2, and 3 have continued to not really make me want to get this pass. I just don't really care for their aesthetics at all. It's possible that my distance from actually being really engaged with this game is making me feel a little bit more judgmental about this pass. But I will say that once we get into the latter part of it, when we get to Volume 4, and we start getting Alvis and Shulk and grown-up Rex showing up here, which I'll pause, that catches my interest. That makes me go, what in the world's going on? Because the end of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition doesn't really suggest that Alvis has had an ulterior motive all this time. But I haven't played X, 2, Torna Country, or Future Connected. Plus, I still haven't finished 3. So there might be some stuff there that might suggest that Alvis was bad all along. But this is definitely a wonderful call to the series legacy in terms of how much these characters have become part of Nintendo's history. And that makes me excited. That I would consider paying the $25 for if it's a big meaty campaign that just throws everything into the game from the past. Samba de Amigo, which I kept saying as I just didn't say Amigo less direct. A lot of people were pretty pumped about a new Samba game. And it definitely makes sense for this to come to the Switch with the Joy-Cons. As you can see in the bottom right corner, the person doing the examples are doing a good job of selling it. The aesthetic is definitely like, what if we go Just Dance with it? I still feel that. But I think for fans of the series, this is a wonderful opportunity to re-engage with it because it's been so long. So Fashion Dreamer, I cut this out of my reaction because I spent practically the entire thing going, is this by the people who made Style Savvy? This looks like the people who made Style Savvy. And then I didn't even talk about the contents of what was shown. I was just infatuated with the fact, like, this looks like Style Savvy. So I just cut that out. But it is made by the people who made Style Savvy, Sin Sophia. And it's basically Style Savvy with that branding removed and an emphasis on being an influencer, which I think is pretty on point for a modern fashion game. I don't really have any interest in it, but I think it looks nice. I think the graphics are solid, and it looks like if you are into dress-up games or into fashion games or whatever, this might be your jam. And I'm glad to see that the series didn't necessarily die. It just changed names. Dead Cells returned to Castlevania. Something that I didn't catch because I didn't have sound was that there's 12 brand new arrangements of Castlevania tunes along with, I want to say, 51 tracks from the series just kind of chilling in this expansion. So that makes me think it's kind of beefy. You can get Dead Cells with just this expansion, but if I'm gonna go in on it, I'm gonna probably just get the whole game. I don't know if I'll like it, but I'll probably give it a try when I have some money to blow on something like this. It's just nice to see Castlevania in a modern context again. As I said in the Direct, I don't care about Tron. This is cool that they're bringing it back with a narrative adventure game, but to me, this was probably my low point of the Direct. And of course, Ghost Trick was the thing I popped off the most about, probably. I cannot wait to play Ghost Trick again. I actually watched Short One Gaming play through the DS version last year, and it was one of my favorite moments of the year. So I'll probably buy this, but wait a little bit longer to replay it, so that way the solutions aren't fresh in my mind. But this is fantastic. This, as I said, is one of Capcom's best games that they've ever made. And deserves a wider audience, so I'm glad that it's coming out again, and that it was in this Direct and wasn't just like announced somewhere else. Deca Police. Probably the wildest thing that showed up during the Direct in terms of where is this, what is this, where did this incredibly high production value game come from out of nowhere, and it's Level 5. Level 5 has just not really been doing a whole lot outside of Japan for a couple years now. And we had 3 big announcements from them. And this one, I think, is the most interesting to me. Again, as I said in my reaction, I could care less about the police angle. That troubles me a little bit, even with an anime coat of paint on it. But at the same time, everything that this game is showing off, the detective mode, investigations, the combat system actually being like a traditional RPG, and it's I don't even really know what to make of this game because there's so much going on just in this little trailer. Because you've got a huge open world that apparently has a virtual component, so things can get weird. You've got this style when it comes to the bosses that reminds me a lot of Persona. So this is just a wild game, and Level 5 makes great RPGs, and they make great puzzle games. So to put them together is really interesting. I hope that it's a good game. I really do. Bayonetta Origins. Great to see a little bit more of this game. I think it kind of cemented my interest in possibly picking this up later, mostly for the visual style and how the puzzling's going to work, not because it's a Bayonetta game. What I've read is that Platinum had a junior designer that created the little mini game that's in 3 this is based off of, and wanted to fully flesh it out more, and Platinum said, you know what, why not? So they did, and I think that this is actually the most interesting thing Platinum has made in a while. So I'm hoping that this turns out well. Alright, Splatoon 3, boy, my enthusiasm for Wave 1 kind of deflated once I actually heard what's going on with it. So basically, Wave 1 is a new hub area where you can just hop in and you'll go back to Splatoon 1 Ecopolis with some of the additions of the series later on, like Salmon Run and Table Turf. But otherwise, it's a callback to Splatoon 1. Nostalgia. Fantastic. I love it for that. Squid Sisters are there. They'll be performing during Splatfest if you're here. That's really neat. What I was hoping would happen is that the stores wouldn't have the same stock. I understand why they decided to have the stores have the same stock, because it wouldn't necessarily be quote-unquote fair for anyone who didn't buy the expansion pass to not have access to clothes. My only hope is that the selection will be different day to day between the two. That would be nice. There's no guarantee of that. The way that the Direct made it sound is that it'll be the same. But outside of that, it's really just like an aesthetic thing, and it feels like this being the only thing coming in Wave 1 that we are aware of. It's nice, but it seems kind of underwhelming once I learned that it wasn't going to bring in a whole bunch of different items. I mean, I love Callie and Marie, so I'm down to come hang out here from time to time, but I'm not going to probably get this pass until we get to Wave 2. And a lot of people think that the protagonist here is Marina when she was younger. Her skin color isn't quite right for me to believe that's the case. But this is very much a Pearl and Marina focused DLC. You can see it in the art, but it's also called Side Order. And I want to pause on that thought for just a moment. If you recall, when Splatoon 2 did its final Splatfest, it was Order versus Chaos. Marina was Order and Pearl was Chaos. Chaos won, and that's what led to the direction of Splatoon 3 taking place in the Splatlands and having that vibe around it. We haven't seen much of Pearl and Marina in Splatoon 3. They don't even have table turf cards yet. So what my belief is that this is going to explore either some elements of Marina's past that led her to meet Pearl, or this is going to be an interesting side story about if Order won. What would have happened then? And exploring that. So I'm very excited about where this could go. The lo-fi music also is really awesome. It's a very different vibe from the rest of Splatoon's music. It just has me very intrigued. But I'm not going to get this pass until we actually learn more about when this part's going to come out. Because, like I said, Ecopolis, since it doesn't really offer anything new beyond a hub aesthetic, I don't really know if I'm that gung-ho about buying it early. So, those are my 2 cents on where this Splatoon 3 expansion went. Alright, I didn't share the reaction to Disney Illusion Island, but my basic thought on it is that this looks like a Rayman game, and that's a good thing. It just got a Disney coated paint on it, and honestly, this style of animation is not really my cup of tea, so that was kind of why I didn't bother to react to it. But for fans of 2D platforming, for fans of these characters, for fans of really well animated things and they like the style, I think this will be great, but it's just not something I'm that gung-ho about. Alright, so the emblems, we know them all. As I said at the top, I wasn't expecting Nintendo to share Wave 2, 3, and 4 details here. As I said, Hector's great. He was about as retro as I was expecting them to go. Soren is a great choice. He's in both games, and it makes sense. Camilla is probably the most popular character from Fates, and there had to be another Fates rep. And then Chrom and Robin, they had to be here. Awakening was such a big game. I'm glad they're together. And then we didn't actually have a Heroes representative, so Veronica being here makes sense. And her ability to summon heroes makes me very curious how that's going to work in game. Because here's Ike out of nowhere. Is he playable? Is he an emblem that you can assign to the character that you're currently assigned Veronica to? I have many questions. But Hector, Camilla, and Soren are already out. I haven't got a chance to unlock them yet. I haven't really felt like playing games this weekend. I've been rearranging my house. That's part of the reason why I didn't want to be on camera. So I have no qualms or regrets about buying the pass. I think that the characters that they picked were the ones that make a lot of sense. Lynn's already in the game, and Lucina's already in the game. The only thing I would have liked is if they add female Byleth, so you can tag her out, and maybe male Corrin for those fans of male Corrin, instead of just locking them. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints about the DLC, and the Wave 4 looks interesting. So Don't Nod's game here, Harmony, The Fall of Reverie, looks really fascinating. I really like the animation, the art style is very strong, and it sounds really compelling. And Lana Rain of Celeste and Chicory fame is composing the music, which already sounds really good when I was able to hear it. And, you know, this game might be really cool. I think that it's definitely getting close to being something I want to play. I just want to probably know a little bit more about how it works before I make that commitment. Octopath Traveler 2 looks amazing. I still am not ready for it to be out in a couple weeks, so I will not be buying it anytime soon. Metroid Prime basically is the one thing I made the exception to out of this entire direct, to buy it physical. But it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I am curious enough to give it a try because I know that the characters do more with each other. Here's number 1 in Bandai Namco's Surprise Retro Revival. Wheel Katamari is not too big of a surprise because Katamari Damacy is already on Switch, but they've added some new features to this one, including playing as the king of all cosmos when he was young, as well as a selfie mode. So that's great. I think that this series needs more revival, and this one's even better from what I understand. So, awesome. And if you want to try out Katamari Damacy, there you go. You can do that. I've already talked about Sea of Stars and my issues with it. I want to talk a little bit more about what I mean by that. Sabotage Studio are fans of a men's rights activist named Jordan Peterson, and they made a lot of the dialogue with a merchant basically espouse that philosophy, as well as having a transphobic joke in the messenger that they removed upon fans complaining. I cannot really trust the company to not do similar behavior again in this game. As gorgeous as it looks, as gameplay-wise seems to be my jam, I just can't let that go. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to people's reactions and thoughts when the game's actually released later this year before I have any real strong opinion on it. But I can just say right off the top that having key members of your development staff being into a men's rights activist is very much a way for me to not have any interest in your game. So that's why I had that reaction at the time. Omega Strikers looks okay, but it is very much not a game that I'm into whatsoever. I had a very flat reaction to it. I don't even think I included it in the final product. The characters look great, but the gameplay looks really slow for a game that's supposed to be like futuristic air hockey. I'm just like, that's nice, but I don't care. Alright, Etrian Odyssey 1, 2, 3 as a bundle, showing up out of nowhere. According to what I read following the direct, they had announced a new Etrian Odyssey, but not ports at any point. So this, I think, is maybe a way to kind of test to see if the gameplay mechanics can work and if there's still an interest before they commit too much more money to a new one. There's a bunch of new character designs that have been done, as well as all the old ones reappearing. Some of them are very, very sexualized for the age of the characters that they look. So I won't be getting this for that reason, on top of not really enjoying the gameplay of this series. Advance Wars is alive as I reacted. I was still writing a bit of that, like, whoa, where'd Etrian Odyssey come from hype when I was reacting to this. This animation looks fantastic. I find it really interesting that there's no gameplay shown at all in this reveal that is coming back. It is all animation probably from the opening trailer or an introduction before you start the game. I find that really interesting. But it's coming out in April. I'm not going to be picking it up right away, but I'm very glad that it is living again. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe has an epilogue with the character that it introduced that I can't remember their name. It starts with an M. So there's a whole new gameplay section. It's 4 players as well. And you get to understand what's going on with this character. Mogalore. Something like that. Magilore. Something like that. So this is very long. I am not going to show any more of it because it is very long. It didn't sell me on getting the game. It reminded me I need to get Forgotten Land. So, but for fans of that game or fans of Kirby, I think that's fantastic. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance reveal. So Game Boy's got 10 games. I still can't believe we got Alone in the Dark. THQ Nordic apparently is now going to be supplying Nintendo Switch Online with games. So we might be getting some very interesting ones from them because they've got a huge backlog over at Embracer Group of various IPs. Can't say I'm very thrilled about it, but I think that they had a very strong opening salvo of titles for Game Boy. There's a Mario game, there's a Zelda game, there's a Metroid game, there's a Kirby game. The biggest omission was Pokemon. They did reveal that Pokemon trading card game is coming, but that's not the ones people are probably most excited about. My hope is that we'll get some more stuff from Capcom as well, from all platforms, not just the Game Boy. Capcom has been, outside of the Super Nintendo, pretty stingy in terms of getting more content on here. But I think the Game Boy lineup is great. It has a bunch of really good stuff, and there's a whole bunch more to look forward to, that even beyond the 4 that they show at the teaser at the end. So I'm hoping that we'll get a decent salvo of games at a time, like 3 or 4, and not just one like the N64 has been doing. More often than not. Game Boy Advance, on the other hand, I'm a little less enthused by in terms of how they started it, because it only has 6 games to start. Granted, they're all good to fantastic. I think starting off with Super Mario Bros. Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, with all the e-reader stuff, like right off the bat, just saying, yeah, that's going to be here, that's great. WarioWare, very important Game Boy Advance game to include. Zelda the Minish Cap, very important. Showing Kururin is great too, because that's like, hey, we're gonna have import stuff, which basically means the door for Mother 3 is open. Along with other things, of course. But that's all first party here. There's no third party stuff shown at all. The closest we've got is the fact that Flagship, a former Capcom studio, worked on Minish Cap. So hopefully we'll get some third-party stuff down the road soon as well. Seeing what's coming probably has me more excited because Fire Emblem's there. Japan's getting Binding Blade and Blazing Blade. So I'm very excited about that. Golden Sun fans finally will get some recognition as well. Metroid Prime. I was very happy about this. I'm looking forward to playing it when the physical version comes out in 2 weeks. This looks fantastic. It's a wonderful looking game. I am excited to play it with the dual analog controls. That has me really pumped. I just love this game, and I've been wanting to replay it, but because I don't have a way to hook my Wii up to my monitors or a TV, it just hasn't really worked out for me to play a lot of stuff that I would like to for the GameCube. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to play Metroid Prime again. I didn't talk about Rain Code at all. I'm not even going to show you any footage from Rain Code. I have watched enough of Danganronpa to just not be into this team's aesthetic or decision making. So we're just going to skip it. I guess that was the absolute low point for me because I just don't care. Baiten Kaitos, what a shock. There was a bit of a rumor mill that this had been in the works prior to the direct, and here it is. I think that it looks pretty solid. A lot of people were like, I haven't played it, but I'm glad for the fans. That's how obscure this series kind of is. So, I'm glad to see that we've got 3 of the GameCube RPGs accounted for on the Switch. We've got Tales of Symphonia, and now we got both Baiten Kaitos games. We need Sega to get Skies of Arcadia out there. We need From Software to work with somebody to get the Lost Kingdoms games. And because I was reacting, I forgot about Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. Both of those, Nintendo, would be great to have on the Switch. But I'm all for retro revival stuff like this. Even if the card combat does not do anything for me. Fantasy Life is back with a brand new game. The people that I thought would be excited about it were excited about it. So I think that this is wonderful to see Level 5 bringing back a series that does have a very strong and passionate fan base. Just come back to this series and bring it worldwide. It's just great to have Level 5 back in some capacity beyond, oh yeah, they made Ni no Kuni. That's all we've really heard of them in the last couple years in terms of overseas stuff. So this is wonderful. I don't know how much I personally am going to get into Fantasy Life, but I think it's great that it's here, and it definitely has me curious about it, which I think is a really good thing. And then we have a new Professor Layton game. I can't really comment on anything beyond he's back. Yes, he's back again. But it's great that they're doing a new Layton game. So we got a new course. This Yoshi's Island course looks beautiful. As someone who doesn't really get into the Yoshi sub-franchise of Mario, I'm pretty excited about this course. And Birdo being added back into the game after not being in it for a while is also great. It was really inexplicable why Birdo wasn't in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the first place. But there she is. And you get multicolored versions of her. So, fantastic. Great news. Wonderful. The sizzle reel is really short, so in most of it I didn't care about. I don't care about Minecraft. Blanc is made by Gearbox, so unfortunately I don't care about it. It looks cute. I don't have much of an interest in the Battle Network games, but for fans, this is a wonderful package. Good for them. Have a Nice Death is also published by Gearbox. This baseball game I did talk about because it's just what the hell. I don't know if I'm going to buy it, but it's interesting. Disney Dreamlight Valley, new stuff for them. Yay. Tales of Symphonia, remastered, looks a lot better, like I said when I was doing the live reaction, but it's so briefly shown in here that I barely had time to talk about it. Then we have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And as I said at the top, I'm kind of at the stage where I don't think I want to see much else of this game moving past this point. I just want to play it. This was the trailer they should have shown in November, I think, when they did the last direct. To just really get people excited and not like, why do you keep teasing us? That's a Gleeok on that bridge, by the way. That's a 3-headed dragon from the original Legend of Zelda. That has me so pumped that there's more enemies. That's really the biggest thing that I was hoping they would address. Number 2, which I did say in the reaction, Zelda needs to not just fall into a hole and disappear for the rest of the game. I'm hoping that she's more involved. There's been some interesting hypotheses that she's merges with your arm with the Sheikah Slate. We'll see about that. That's not necessarily great. That's Bionic Commando 2009 levels of questionable inclusion of a woman in your narrative. So I'm hoping that that's not what happens. But there is another woman who appears talking to Link at one point in this trailer coming up. But just like this traversal method of like you're up high and you can just dive down to the ground at any point is going to make things really interesting to move around. It looks like there's more outdoor puzzles. It looks like there's dungeon-esque locations that are not shrines. The arm being your slate is going to offer up a lot of opportunities. And then here, like all these vehicles, like you apparently get to build stuff out of the materials you're likely finding around the game. There was a collector's edition and an amiibo also announced. I pre-ordered the amiibo. I'm resisting the collector's edition. So anyway, that is my thoughts on the direct, post-direct. This was really good. I'd still stick by my 9. I think this was a 9 out of 10 direct. I think that, unfortunately, a lot of the... Like, Ghost Trick didn't have any real leak in advance, but Metroid Prime has been talked about for a long time. And Baiten Kaitos had, like, a rating or something that showed up beforehand. And Nintendo didn't really reveal anything new, per se. They just confirmed Advance Wars was coming. More stuff on Kirby and Bayonetta Origins and Pikmin 4 and Zelda. And Metroid Prime would have been the big shocker, but we kind of have already known about it for a while. So, that's why I'm giving it a 9, but I think it was one of the best directs Nintendo's done, on the whole. Even with advanced knowledge of just stuff moving around with them. So, we'll see what the next direct holds for us. I'm guessing around June, although Nintendo's supposedly not involved with E3. So, who knows what they're doing. But it would make sense for them to do one in June because outside of Pikmin 4, we don't really know what the latter half of the year has. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to try to get through Engage by next weekend, so I can start Metroid Prime. And I'll have that episode finally ready for consumption once I get through the game. It's going to actually be a full-on review, I think, instead of just an impressions at this point, because I'm deep enough in the game that I feel like it should be a full-on review. It'll probably be comparative with other games in the series, namely Three Houses. But I am very happy with Engage on a lot of other levels. So we'll see you when that happens. Till then, have a good series of days, and take care.